Hey y'all, welcome to the first episode of the Six Figure Vet podcast. I'm your host, Jailyn, the original Six Figure Vet. And today we're going to dive into my story, how I ended up becoming the Six Figure Vet, the woes and the lows of getting out of the military, joining the military, and what the platform is basically about. Be sure to like and subscribe us on all platforms, including but not limited to Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Let's go. Didn't stop, dedicated, stay down till I came up, this patience. Dreaming to goals to plans to execution. Hey y'all, welcome to the first episode of the Six Figure Vet podcast. I'm your host, Jailyn, the original Six Figure Vet. And today we're going to dive into my story, how I ended up becoming the Six Figure Vet, the woes and the lows of getting out of the military, joining the military, and what the platform is basically about. Be sure to like and subscribe us on all platforms, including but not limited to Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Let's go. So I joined the military back in September of 2012. I was newly graduated out of high school. I didn't really have a lot of money to go to college, and I didn't have the financial support from my family to actually go to college either. I had the grades or whatever, but y'all, nobody talked to me about scholarships. Nobody talked to me about grants or financial aid. Only thing I knew how to do was fill out the application to get into college. Like that's all I knew how to do. So I was getting into these schools, but I had no idea like how I was going to pay for room and board or tuition or like any of that stuff. So I didn't really have the confidence needed to go to school and be successful. So I was like, okay, I can't do that. And I'm from a very small town in Alabama called Sylacauga. Sylacauga. Yeah, put some respect on it. But I'm from a really small town. And really, the only progressive way for you to make money or be successful is to work at these like plant jobs. And no diss or shade to the plant jobs, because a lot of people I know and love definitely work at these plant jobs. But y'all, I worked there the summer that I graduated high school, and I was like, I can't do this. This is not for the kid. Like, I don't want to do this. So I went down to Auburn, Alabama. Shout out to Auburn. We're Eagle. And I went into a recruiter's office, and I was just like, yo, what's up? Like, I wanna leave. I wanna, sign up for the military or whatever. And it was actually the Air Force, and they wasn't really talking how I wanted to talk or what I wanted to hear. They weren't really saying anything that I wanted to hear. They were basically telling me like, yeah, you're gonna have to deploy. We're gonna get you shipped off super soon, and that scared me. So I was headed back to my car, and a Navy recruiter stopped me and was like, what's up, shipmate? And basically finessed his way into my head and was like, yeah, come take this little pre-ASVAB joint I got and see how you do. So I took the pre-ASVAB and I did extremely well on it. So he was like, yeah, we gotta get you scheduled to come down here and take another test or whatever to take the real thing. And so I left. I went back after studying a little bit more, and I joined the Navy. And it was literally like that. Like, it wasn't a long drawn out decision. I left really fast. I wasn't in the delayed entry program for a really long time, maybe like 2 months. And, I left and I became a logistics specialist in the Navy. And it was a very, very interesting experience. I was able to travel to multiple countries, including Dubai, Singapore, Bahrain, um, Italy, just a bunch of different places, y'all. I was able to just travel and experience these different cultures while I was there. I was stationed in Washington State. at the time that I was deploying. And then I left Washington and got stationed in Southern Maryland. Yes, yes, Lord. Southern Maryland, y'all. It's shout out to Maryland though. Let me get my big one to the DMV, y'all. The DMV will always, always, always hold a special place in my heart. I love Maryland. Maryland and DC and the culture, it literally changed my life. So definitely want to give a big shout out. But Southern Maryland, baby, let me just tell you. Mm, wow. Anyways, I ended up getting stationed in Southern Maryland, and I was like, I gotta leave. Like, I don't want to stay in the military. They keep giving me these terrible places to stay, and I don't want to do it. And on top of that, y'all, that was my first time seeing black people, successful black people that weren't in the military. So, like I said before, success to me, growing up in rural Alabama in this small town, I didn't know any black people that owned their own homes. I knew no trailers, maybe they might have owned their trailers or the land that the trailer was on, but I didn't know any black people there that owned their homes. I take that back. My aunt and my uncle, they owned their home. In a place called Chelsea, but I didn't know of any like successful black people really. So to come to Maryland and see all of these super successful black people within different careers and different fields, it was like, bro, I could do this. Like, it was so motivational for me to see that as a young black woman that had been raised in Sylacauga, Alabama, to see other black young women making 6 and 7 figures. And once I saw that, it automatically became my goal. Like, I want to make 6 figures. Like, I see that is possible. I see that making 6 figures is possible for young black African Americans. And I want to be in that statistic, right? So that's what really kind of like sparked the idea of getting out of the military and not doing 20 years. Fast forward, that was like I got to Maryland in like 2018, 2020 when the world shut down. I ended up getting pregnant with my son, and that was kind of like the ain't no turning around. Like, you really got to get out. They had already told me like, yeah, as soon as you drop that kid, you're going on deployment, shorty. And I was like, yeah, no, that's not something that I'm interested in doing. I don't want to leave my baby behind with nobody. So I'm just going to go ahead and bow out gracefully. So I made the decision to get out of the military in 2020. I made the decision 2020, and my last day serving on active duty was March 23rd, 2021. That was the last day. And I just remember that feeling being so surreal. Like, y'all, I didn't have a whole bunch of money to my name. I barely had a plan, if you just want to keep it a bean. Like, I really didn't have a plan, which is also ironic because that's like the slogan, like dreams to goals, goals to plans, plans to execution. But I ain't really had that part. I ain't really had that. So I got out March 23rd, 2021, and I was basically failing forward. That was really the definition of 2001, 2022 was failing forward. I I didn't know what I wanted to do. Only thing I knew that I wanted to do was make 6 figures, which by the grace of God, I did end up accomplishing that goal, hence the 6 figure vet. But I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I had been a logistics specialist, which is like transportation, supply chain management, all of that type of stuff. That was my job in the military. And all I had heard was, yo, when you get out, you can work for the government sector and make all this money if you do that, especially if you get a degree within that field. So I was kind of like, so since I had heard that, you can make all this money in that field, I signed up for school and I decided to get my degree in supply chain management. Y'all, the first semester, I was like, I can't do this. And on top of that, this is the crazy part. So I go to school for supply chain management. I get this job working for this Fortune 500 company, making like almost $90,000 doing supply chain management. And y'all, I hated school and I hated my job. I hated both of them, but I was making the money. I had enough money coming in from various like other like side stuff, plus like the 80 to 90 I was bringing in from my job. It put me over $100,000. So I achieved the goal, but that's why you got to be super specific about what you ask for, because you will get exactly what you ask for. So I had to go back to the drawing board like, yo, this is not something that I really want to do. Like the money good, but I am like fighting for my life for Friday to come because I hate my job and I'm not that interested in my schoolwork either. So I decided to switch majors. I ended up getting a bachelor's degree in psychology. And y'all, I was so naive. I thought that you had to like go to school to become a psychologist in order to be a therapist, because that ended up being my overall goal. Like I love mental health. I love, helping people get over like mental health disorders or identify them or break generational curses or find coping mechanisms. Like that's right up my alley, right? Being a mental health advocate for single Black moms, being a advocate for veterans, that's where my passion lies. So I was just like, okay, I'm about to have to be in school for like the next 11 years. And I was content with that because I was so happy about finding something that I actually wanted to do. So, come to find out, so I went to school, I got a bachelor's degree in psychology. And I ended up finding a therapist that got her degree, her 5-year degree, not 11-year, in social work. And finding out you can become an LCSW and be a therapist that way, so I having to pivot, right? Having to pivot. But I was, like I said, I was content with having to spend all that time in school because I had a goal. I had a goal and I had a plan. And only thing I had to do was stay focused on this goal and continue executing the plan, and I was going to reach the goal. So I was basically kind of like locked in. And that time frame had to be like the biggest obstacle of my military career. Basically reinventing myself, because as good as quiet as kept, a lot of people don't tell you. I think the portion that is missing when we get out of the military, right? Or when you're thinking about getting out, there's this piece, this mental health piece, where you kind of go through this state of limbo where you don't really feel like you belong nowhere, or you don't really know where you belong. It's like, especially if you have a little rank, like you don't have that anymore. You don't have it's almost like an identity crisis. You don't have this identity. You were praised and had accolades, and basically the road to success was paid for you while you were in the military. If you do this, this, and this while you in, you're gonna get this. And that's your road to success. But when you get out of the military, you have to pave that road yourself. And it doesn't look like nobody else's road. That road only looks like it's designed specifically for you, made by you. And it is paved with your choices and your plans and your actions, which is extremely difficult for somebody that for the last 8 to 10 to 20 years have been told, hey, if you want to be successful, these exact steps is what you need to do. That's really hard to do. So um that was a very hard time for me. Like that time frame of getting out the military and deciding, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? Basically, you ask yourself, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was like, yo, I want to be a therapist. I want to be a mental health advocate. I want to speak for the veterans. That's what I want to do. Um, but the time frame from choosing, well, the time frame from deciding that and realizing that was crazy. very crazy, especially with a kid. Um, it was a dangerous game. I quit the job, the $90,000 a year job, let it go. Because I wasn't happy, right? And that's super scary for somebody that grew up in the projects to let go of $90,000. Like, girl, what is wrong with you? Um, and you got a mouth to feed, right? And you ain't got nobody else to depend on. It's just you and this little baby. And you out here making decisions based on your feelings. Like, what are you doing? And those were the conversations I would have with myself often. Um, which is why I say, that time was one of the biggest obstacles. But one of the greatest things about being in the military, and one of the greatest things I feel like that military gives you, or the tools that it gifts you with upon exiting, is being able to set yourself up. Y'all, it's so many benefits to being a veteran, like that they don't tell you about when you are in actively, from business grants and loans to, if you're 100% disabled, not paying property taxes on your homes. The disability alone could take care of you and your family. Y'all, it's so much. Chapter 31 VRNE, like, y'all, I could go on. If you live in Texas, baby, you lit. You ain't even got to pay for parking at the airport. Like, it's so much stuff for veterans. But you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So you got to know what you're doing with all these resources. You got to know what you're doing with the resources. You got to know how to use the tools. And if you don't know how to, and that's really how they get you. They give you all these fancy schmancy tools, but they don't show you how to use them. And they don't show you how to take advantage of them, or how to network with other veterans to utilize them, right? So it's just like somebody gifting you a Tesla and you only then rode a bike your whole life. You're going to be like, yo, this is so dope, but can you show me how to work it? And then they walk off. That's low key what the military do. They give you a lot of dope stuff, but nobody really explains to you how to use it. But that's the power of social media and platforms like the Six Figure Veteran and other resources that you find on TikTok or YouTube that show you how to utilize these tools that you have in your tool belt, being a veteran, being a disabled veteran, you know, being within that community, being a woman owned, veteran owned business. There's a lot of different things that are afforded to you, with having those titles, but you have to know how to use them or where to go to learn how to use them. And that's kind of what this podcast is for. This podcast is to, yes, showcase the amazing success stories of veterans, but to get y'all the information. Like, it's so much information out here for veterans. There is so many successful veterans that stories are just not told. Like, y'all, I have discovered so many veteran-owned businesses. I've met so many successful corporate veterans that have completely pivoted into a new industry after serving in the military that is bananas, that you wouldn't even think is possible, that we aren't told that it's possible, but it definitely is. Or so many loopholes or tricks, to tools, like I was stating earlier, that we could use to better ourselves or better our lives and our families' lives. So I definitely want to make sure that those things are highlighted within this podcast, because we need to know that information. We need to know who done utilized them, giving them their flowers, and then, pass that information down. So that's definitely going to be some information that we have here on the Six Figure Vet podcast. And as I mentioned, segueing to pivoting, you getting out the military is like one of the greatest things you can do when you're ready. Let me just throw that out there, when you're ready, because I done seen people get out and not be successful, or be stuck in the I don't know who I am phase for years. that sizzle in your spirit. Years, okay? Stuck in the I don't know what to do in myself phase because they failed to plan. They failed to execute the plan. So reinventing yourself and coming up with that plan. If you were a cook, a CS, or, in infantry or anything like that, and you have the goal or the mindset or the aspirations to do something completely different, you can do that. Like, you can do that. And the crazy thing about it is, being a veteran and having that behind your name can get you into those doors way quicker if versus somebody that doesn't have it behind their names. You just have to be willing to reinvent yourself and don't limit yourself to who you were while you were serving. I think that's a lot. Like, a lot of times, take my situation for example. When I got out the military, I immediately said, okay, since I did supply for 10 years, I'm going to stick with supply. That's where the money at. That's where this at. That's where all my experience at. I'm going to just stick to what I know, which ain't nothing wrong with that, because I know a lot of people that actually decided to do that and are doing very well and living successful lives. And I'll have some of those people on the podcast as well. But what if you don't like what you did in the military for all that time, which is why you decided to get out? Then what? So you're going to be miserable as a civilian? And that's another question that, came to the forefront. I was like, yeah, you making all this money, but the reason why you wanted to get out the military was because you was miserable doing that job. So what, you just going to do the job and make more money and still be miserable? Like, that math don't math at all, right? So not being afraid to reinvent yourself or branch off into the unknown of a different career field or a different pathway than what you've been exposed to is also a yellow brick road that is a road less traveled, but can very much mean the road to your own success. And know that as it comes to defining success, right? As it comes to defining what success means for you or what success looks like for you, it's going to look different than the next person. It is all good and dandy to take inspiration or use somebody else's life as inspiration. I don't believe in that. Like, stay in your own lane. Well, I do believe in staying in your lane, but like, there are a lot of people that I look up to that I'm like, yo, that's so dope. You're motivating me. You're inspiring me to push and do better and all this stuff. But don't let that turn into you making a replica of it. You have to define what success looks like for you. If for example, success for me looks like getting as many veteran stories out as I can. That's what success looks like for me to other veterans. I want to build this platform up and get as many stories out as I can. Your success might be, hey, I just want to, go to school, get my degree, and work in media, or I just want to become a chef. Shout out to prior YN1 Kimmy. She totally redefined what success was for her and reinvented herself all within the same breath, right? And there's a whole bunch of other veterans out here like that. Teslin Figaro is another one. Shout out to the Breakfast Club and Teslin Figaro. Straight Talk No Chase the podcast. She was a veteran. She was a veteran and totally, totally, totally reinvented herself, redefined what success looked like for her, and took a road less traveled, unknown road, right? And is doing amazing things in it. So keep that in mind, that your success is not going to look like your battle buddy or your shipmate success, and that you got to really figure out what success, happiness, and peace looks like for you. What does a peaceful day being a veteran look like for you? You know what I'm saying? And that's how I and other veterans that I know have structured their lives, being on the outside. Okay, y'all, another big thing that I feel like is not talked about enough being a veteran is making those connections. Y'all, it's so important to make connections while you're in, but most definitely while you're out. I know it's like, so everybody's not extroverted. Everybody's not like, hey, what's up? My name's Jailyn. Da 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 da. Like, that's cool. But these people that are in the military, they're brilliant. They're brilliant and they're talented and they're creative. So it is important to build connections while you're in and when you get out, because the military is not forever for nobody. Everybody has to get out of the military. Whether you separate voluntarily before your 20 years, you involuntarily separate, or you retire out, you have to get out. Like, you can't, it's not a 50-year type of job. Like, it's not one of those type of jobs or where you have to stay in until you turn 65. Everybody has to get out. The most you could do is like 30 years, I think. Like, you have to get out. So, and most of the time when you get out, you're going to need those connections. I got my first job outside of the military because I had a veteran friend that was like, yo, you a logistics. I know this company. I'm cool with the hiring managers. Let me slide them your name. And I had already previously applied. That's the crazy thing. I had already previously applied and they didn't choose me like a couple months prior. But as soon as he gave me the connection and he hit his connect up, I got an interview and I got the job. Like, so connections are extremely important. Um, the whole it's not about what you know, but who you know is very true. Extremely true for the life of a civilian. Also, go to networking events like job fairs. Go to job fairs or whatever you think your niche is. I would start doing. I hate when people say market research, but definitely market research, because you need to get in them rooms that you need to be in. And what market research could look like is you literally going on Google and say, I wanted to be a podcast host. Say I want to be a podcast host. I'm getting on Google. I'm looking at podcast hosts, meetups. I'm looking at summits and all these type of things. And I'm trying to get into those rooms. I'm following different people that are already in those spaces. If we got mutual friends, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm in people DM. Like, you gotta be hungry about the things that you want. Cause like I said before, it's not a road that's already paid for you like it is in the military. In the military, they like, okay, if you do this, this, and this, you're gonna make it to E5. And if you do that, that, and that, and you add a little razzle on it, you could go officer. Now, once you make officer, this is gonna be given to you, this is gonna be given to you. But then if you really want to like throw some pizzazz on it, do this, and this. And in this time frame, this should happen. That's literally how the military is. But in the civilian world, you don't get none of that. You get none of it. You get literally none of it. You literally have to be like, this is my goal. This is what I want. So let me just start creating ways and paths and learning and researching and putting myself out there to find out how I can get into this space, how I can achieve this goal. That's literally how that works. And of course, keeping God first, and being directed and led by him. But that's how that works for real. So this concludes the first episode of the Six Figure Vet podcast. Again, I'm your host, Jailyn. Each and every Wednesday, we're going to be dropping gems. We're going to be dropping bombs. We're going to be dropping interviews of different veterans. If you or somebody you know is a veteran that you think would love to be on the podcast, would be a good fit to be on the podcast, please go to our Instagram at the Six Figure Vet. Click the link in our bio. hit the Google Doc and fill it out. Somebody will be in touch with you within 48 hours. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We can't wait to give y'all these hot, hot, hot topics and showcase the stories of our veterans. Like, y'all deserve y'all flowers. I'm going to make sure you get them. So, again, thank you for listening. Streaming Follow us on all streaming platforms. Apple Music. Follow us on all streaming platforms. Apple Music, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcast. Six Figure Vet is out.